everyone, welcome to chapter 7. In this chapter, we are going to actually learn about how to improve the web design with the new page layout that we have. So basically, normally we design some website and then we try to perfection it in terms of the layout, functionality, and also the efficiency of our site. So sometimes we just start creating something very quickly, and then we need to basically add some of our creativity. Also, we need to think about the customer's need in terms of the content and then the design. So in order to meet that requirement, we must always reevaluate our content and design, and also try to apply new technologies and innovation to keep our audience engaged and basically, get their requirements in there. So as probably you have learned by now, the HTML5 actually is a new tool for improving a web page design, and it can include semantic elements for a specific type of content. So we have already talked about some of those elements like header, navigation, main, and footer. So in this chapter, we are going to look at some other elements and basically learn how to integrate them to the web pages. So basically, now you've learned the basics, we're just gonna kind of improve our web design. And then at the end, your third part of your project, you have already created 2 projects, but the third part of your project will be to actually improve your website, because I know a lot of you kind of like, just did it quickly, but we need to kind of make some changes to improve that as well. Okay, some of the objectives that we are going to learn from these chapters will be that we are going to actually learn to know when to use the article, aside, and section elements. Also, we are going to talk about figure and fit caption elements. And we are going to talk about how to redesign the wireframes for basically tablets and desktop viewports as well. And also we will kind of talk about how to create the text shadow property and add a banner image to our website. This is like very popular for our websites now, that they have that banner kind of a image. And then also learn about insert and style a figure element, insert and style a section element, insert and style an article element, and insert and style a side element. So these are basically the 4 elements that we are going to concentrate in this chapter 7. So you just remember that you have learned already the other 4s, like the header, navigation, main, and footer. So in this chapter, we're going to focus more on the figure, section, article, and side. So then we're also going to look at how to create a 3-column layout, and basically use the overflow property as well. As part of this book, we are following the Forward Fitness Club website, and we already, in your labs, you have created the contents that includes the header, navigation, main, and footer, and semantic elements. So these are other semantic elements that actually you can learn and apply to the project. So the article elements, which indicates the start and end of the article, side elements, detail elements, figure elements, fit caption elements, section, summary, and time. So these are the extra there's extra elements other than those 4 that you already know. So we will look at each of them in a little bit more detail. So let's look at the article element. So basically, the article element, as it's described by W3C, is a complete safe content composition in a document, page, application, or actually a site. This can actually be a forum post, a magazine newspaper article, a blog entry, or user submitted content. It can also be an interactive widget or some sort of a gadget, or any other independent content that you can have. So the article normally can start with the article tag and it can end with that tag as well. So the content placed between these tags, they will appear on the web page as part of the article elements. So articles, they can also be nested within other HTML elements, such as the main element, the section element, or other articles elements as well. So articles are basically used to contain new articles, blog and forum posts, or even comments. So let's look at this section here, like this figure basically. So this is actually an example of wireframe that can use the article elements, as you can see in here. So basically you can see that you are going to have, of course, your main, the footer, the navigation header, and then you can use the article to section it out all your pages. So this is kind of a very useful, The other element that we are going to talk about is basically a side element. A side element also, it's been described by W3C, is an element that represents a section of a page that consists of the content that's basically tangibly related to the content around the side element. So the side element, basically, it's used as a sidebar. So something that maybe you can remember when you want to use the side, because it's kind of a side element. So sidebar could be one that can use this. So let's look at some example here. Let's think about an article on a web page that can contain maybe a recipe and list of some of the ingredients. You could include a side element with more information about the key ingredients, such as the origin or maybe where you purchased it and so on. So it can also be nested within article elements or within the main or basically this section element as well. So something else that maybe the visualization might actually help you understand it better. So again, you can see that this is an example of wireframe that uses the side element. And in this example, you can see, okay, you could have your articles, but inside it, you could have that aside element. So let's say, maybe that's the recipe that you have the article, you have it about the recipe. And here, maybe you have some of your ingredients on the sidebar. So this is kind of like a sidebar of the website, if you want to think about it. There are more figures that you can look in your book, like figure 7.7. You can see exactly how, when you are creating something with a side element, looks like. The other element that's important to learn is about the section element, which also that's been described by W3C as an element that can represent a generic section of document or an application. A section element is a thematic grouping of the content. So it's based on the theme. So the theme of each section should be identified as a child of the section element. So the section element can define different parts of a web page document, such as chapters, for example. So this is an example of this section element. Again, that can also be nested within an article element. So you are having your article, and then you have your section element inside that article element. So again, this is kind of like nested into the article element. So normally you want to use the section element for those contents that has headings. you know. So, like your article could have tutorials, then your section could be maybe the chapters, like, or tutorial 1 or part 1, part 2, and so on. So again, let's look at the example here. Again, this is a wireframe example that uses the section element. So in your article, you could have various sections. And that could be, maybe you could have section 1, section 2, section 3, like tutorial 1, tutorial 2, tutorial 3, or something like that. The next element that we are going to talk about is figure and figure caption element. The figure element is also used to group content such as like diagrams, photos, and so on. According to W3C, again, the figure element can represent some flow content. So the figure element is normally used to contain images. So it can also display a chart, graph, or even maybe sometimes a table. So a figure element can contain one or more IMG elements as well. So the figure element may contain an optional figure caption element. So figure caption, normally caption is like optional, but it can actually help you if you're doing the search engine optimization. So the start and tag of the figure caption element are basically fake. You have to open it and then you have to close it. So maybe it best describes, if we look at an example, how it would look. So this is an example of a figure element that you will have, again, you have your normal things like header sections, and all that. And then you can have your figure. This is optional, the figure caption, and then you can have your various images that you are going to have in there. So you could have like 3, 4, or 5 different images as you wish in there. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is the website layout. As I mentioned before, like in today's website, we use a lot of banner images. And they basically, like at the main website, like they don't show you a lot of text. So they have a little bit of text, and then they have all these kind of like a banner that shows like maybe images and has minimum text to it. So a banner, what is a banner that we talk about it? The banner is basically a graphic that can span the width of a web page and actually brands a website. It can often be displayed its name or the identifying image to it. The CSS3 opacity property, which specifies the transparency of the element. The text shadow property can apply a shadow to the text. And you can basically have 2 values for the text shadow. One of them is the edge shadow value, and then the other one is the V shadow value. The edge shadow value designates the horizontal position of the shadow, and the V shadow value designates the vertical position of the shadow. So there is an example here that you can see that you're using the text shadow here. So in this example, if you want to explain this, a text shadow with the horizontal position of this, a vertical position of that, and then this is your color that you apply to that particular H1 element. So before we continue to the next part of our chapter, I just want to remind you that a lot of today's modern websites, they use HTML, CSS with combination to JavaScript. So normally this sliding banner, JavaScript can actually create this very easily. So normally this has like 3, 4 images into it that you can display new products, maybe some promotion and things like that. Okay, so this is it for this part. I will see you guys in the next part. Bye-bye.